There's a strange thing you might do in relationships without even realizing it. You might over-explain yourself. You might apologize when you've done nothing wrong. You might stay quiet when something hurts you. Or maybe, the moment someone becomes distant, your mind immediately starts asking, did I do something? Are they angry with me? Are they going to leave? And the hardest part is this. You may think this is just your personality, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes, it's a habit you learned when you were too young to understand what was happening. A habit that once helped you feel safe, but quietly followed you into adulthood. Imagine a little child sitting in their room. They hear their parents arguing. They don't understand the details. They don't know who's right. They only understand one thing. Something feels wrong. So they become quiet. They stop asking for things. They learn to watch people's faces before speaking. They learn when it's safe to talk, when it's better to disappear. Maybe they become the easy child, the child who doesn't cause problems, the child who says, it's okay, even when it isn't. And eventually, something inside them changes. They stop asking themselves, what do I want? And start asking, what does everyone else need from me? That question can follow you for years. You grow up, you make friends, you fall in love, you get into relationships, and suddenly, that little survival habit starts showing up everywhere. Someone takes longer than usual to reply. You tell yourself they're probably busy. But 5 minutes later, you're checking your phone again. Then your mind starts creating explanations. Maybe they're losing interest. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe they're upset. You reread the last conversation. You analyze their punctuation. You remember something you said 3 days ago. And somehow, you're no longer living in the present. You're trying to prevent a rejection that hasn't even happened. Pause for a moment. Think about the last time you felt responsible for someone else's mood. Did you immediately assume you had done something wrong? If you did, where did you learn that? Because children are incredibly good at adapting. When they grow up around unpredictability, criticism, emotional distance, or constant tension, they start looking for patterns. They learn to read the room. They notice tiny changes in someone's voice, a different expression, a door closing harder than usual, silence at the dinner table, and they begin thinking, if I can figure out what everyone needs, maybe everything will stay okay. That's not weakness. That's adaptation. The child isn't thinking, I'm developing an unhealthy relationship pattern. They're thinking, I need to stay safe. And this is where things get complicated. Because the behavior that helped you survive emotionally as a child can become the behavior that exhausts you as an adult. You become extremely understanding, sometimes too understanding. Someone hurts you, and you immediately think about why they did it. They're probably stressed. They had a difficult childhood. They didn't mean it. You understand everyone, except yourself. You forgive quickly. You suppress anger. You avoid confrontation. You say it's fine because explaining why it wasn't fine feels more frightening than pretending it was. And slowly, your relationships become places where you're constantly adjusting yourself. Not because you don't have needs, but because somewhere along the way, you learned that having needs could create problems. Maybe you learned that love was easier to receive when you were convenient, when you were quiet, when you didn't ask for too much, when you didn't make people uncomfortable. So now, as an adult, someone asks, what do you want? And you genuinely don't know. Not because you don't have an answer, but because you've spent years studying everyone else's answers. This is where many people misunderstand themselves. They say, I'm just a people pleaser. I'm just too sensitive. I overthink everything. I'm just bad at relationships. But what if those aren't the real problem? What if the real problem is that you became extremely good at protecting yourself from emotional rejection? Think about someone who constantly apologizes. Their partner says, why did you do that? And immediately, I'm sorry. Their friend seems distant. Did I do something? Someone sets a boundary. Sorry, I didn't mean to bother you. They aren't always apologizing because they're guilty. Sometimes they're apologizing because conflict feels dangerous. Their nervous system has learned, if someone is unhappy, I need to fix it quickly. So they take responsibility before anyone even asks them to. Another person does the opposite. They become distant. Someone gets too close, and suddenly they feel uncomfortable. They stop replying. They convince themselves they don't need anyone. They tell themselves, relationships are exhausting. I like being alone. I don't care. But underneath that independence might be a fear of depending on someone who could eventually disappoint them. So instead of risking being abandoned, they leave emotionally first. Different behavior, same underlying fear. And here's the twist. You may spend your entire adult life trying to avoid becoming like the people who hurt you, while unknowingly carrying the lessons they taught you. You may hate conflict, but constantly choose relationships where you have to suppress yourself. You may desperately want love, but become uncomfortable when someone actually gives it to you. You may want someone to understand you, while never telling them what you actually need. And eventually, you might ask, why do I keep ending up here? That's the moment something important can change. Because awareness gives you a choice. You can finally notice the pattern instead of automatically obeying it. The next time someone is upset, you can pause before assuming it's your fault. The next time you want to apologize, you can ask, did I actually do something wrong? The next time you're afraid someone will leave, you can ask, is this happening right now? Or does this feeling remind me of something? Pause and reflect on that. Not every uncomfortable feeling is evidence that something is wrong. Sometimes, it's an old alarm reacting to a new situation. And you don't have to obey every alarm. You can learn to say, I need time to think. I don't agree with that. That hurt me. I need something different. I don't want to do this. Without immediately feeling like you've done something terrible. That's what healing can look like sometimes. Not becoming a completely different person. Not suddenly becoming fearless. Just learning that you are allowed to exist without constantly managing everyone else's emotions. Because the child who learned to stay quiet wasn't broken. They were trying to protect themselves with the tools they had. And maybe you don't need to be angry at that version of yourself. Maybe you need to understand them. They learned to watch the room because nobody taught them they were safe enough to simply be themselves. They learned to apologize because keeping the peace felt safer than expressing pain. They learned not to ask for much because needing something once felt like a burden. But you're not that child anymore. You can speak. You can ask. You can leave. You can set boundaries. You can choose people who don't require you to disappear in order to be loved. And perhaps the most important realization is this. The goal isn't to stop caring about people. It's to stop abandoning yourself while caring about them. Because the habit that protected you once doesn't have to control you forever. You can thank that younger version of yourself for getting you this far. And then, you can finally teach them something new. You don't have to earn love by becoming smaller. You don't have to keep everyone happy to be safe. And you don't have to disappear to be loved. Sometimes, growing up isn't about becoming someone new.